I was asked, actually the number one question I get is to talk about the trigger part of my avoidant personality disorder and what started it and how I got to be the way I am, I guess. Because yes, there's the genetic part, and then there's also the trigger. You need to have chronic emotional child abuse in order to actually start the coping skill sort of domino effect, and obviously I'm avoiding it. I have been asked the question a lot. The short answer was my family. This isn't really a nice topic. This is not good for a Christmas vlog. So there's the short answer. It's my family, and you can stop watching now if you don't want to hear anymore, because I don't blame you, because I don't like hearing it when other people talk about it either. It was my family. My father, it was more physical. He's a bully, no question about it. He likes, he's a really big guy. He's 6'3", and he likes to physically push around people that are smaller than him, and he still does it. Little old ladies, he'll shove out of the way. He's really good at hitting without leaving marks, and he did it basically until he realized I could hit back. And then he started like destroying my stuff instead. He'd stopped mostly coming after me when I was mid-teenager, because the idea that he's going to get hit by a teenage girl, oh my god, that would have been even more humiliating than anything else that was going on. So yeah, he was definitely the kind of guy that could not take what he was dishing out. That was my father. But my mother was really the seat of the emotional issue, and her reasoning, this is really weird, and took me a long time to realize, first of all, this was what was going on. I mean, it really, you hear it 900 million times. You think it would sink in, that really, as crazy as it is, this is what she thinks, but this is nuts, but this is the reality. I was not an expected baby. I cannot tell you how many times I've been told, I mean literally told, that her life would have been better if she'd had an abortion. She didn't have to have me and deal with me, because since she got pregnant with me, she had to marry my father. She had to go along with all the crap that went with it. Her life was over. Her entire lifestyle changed. She had to be a mom and take care of the baby and blah, blah, blah. On and on and on. Children were a burden to her and something that kept her from doing what she wanted to do. And the blame was constant, and it was my fault. Because if I hadn't been born, then her life would have been so much different. And all these things, these choices that she made, it wouldn't have been, she wouldn't have made them. That's what she says. Whatever. But then it gets worse. Basically, and this is nuts, I'll tell you, this is nuts, but this is the thing. I am the one who is responsible for anything negative that happened from the point of my conception forward for myself, my father, and my sister. Because my sister wouldn't have existed if I hadn't been there and they had to get married, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, crazy things, like every stupid choice that my sister's ever made, and she's made some doozies, the bad things are my fault. The good things, my mother takes credit for. of course. You know, like, I couldn't have graduated college if it hadn't been for her. And then what she would do is I would have her proofread my papers. And the reason I would have her proofread my papers, and this is obnoxious, and this is the truth, and no one ever told her this, but it's God honest truth. If my mother could understand what was in the papers, and I knew that they were clear and that I was getting my point across. That's always been a concern of mine. Am I articulate and clear enough? That's why I'd have her read my papers. And she literally has told me on multiple occasions that she thought she was the one who should have been awarded the degree that I got because she thinks she did the work. Proofreading my papers for spelling, basically, but behind the scenes it was like, you know, she would just say, I have no idea what this means. I'm like, okay, I got to work on that a little bit further. And she doesn't quit. She gives people the impression that I don't care about anybody else because I don't care enough about her. I mean, it's things like, actually, it was really funny. One of my cousin's kids through marriage, so this is like, you know, somebody we see once a year, basically. This is hilarious. I almost died. Oh, she was mortified. She introduced me to this person for the 40th time or something, and he's like, hey, I do remember people. He thought she was trying to imply that he didn't have the memory, when in fact she was just trying to slam me. I mean, she does it all the time. She makes people think, this is hard to explain, this is truth. She makes people think that I don't care about them. She told me that I'm a snob because I don't interact with people. I don't interact with people because she wouldn't let me. And she really, truly, I mean, she's afraid that I would leave her and abandon her, which I kind of have recently. I mean, no. I mean, but for her, it is all or nothing, period. There's no in between. There's no sort of healthy distance at all. And so she spent her entire life trying to bond her kids to her. So I have a sister. She lives across the country. She has to stay that far away and has to basically have no contact with my mother because my mother is just, it's all or nothing. So, I mean, she can't understand the in-between things, and how she would keep us stuck with her is by making us feel so bad that and making it plain that nobody would want anything to do with us, and she was the only one, and that's it. We have to stick by her because otherwise we will be completely alone. Which really is, that kind of idea is really triggering for somebody with avoidant personality disorder. That idea that is, this is the biggest, giantest fear, being alone forever and not being able to connect, not be able, I mean, I know that sounds weird, but that's like a huge driving thing. Like, and if you think about it, really, if you go underneath it, that's I think a huge point of it, is that you can't put yourself out there because you can't take the rejection. You're not worthy of other people, so they're going to reject you, and then you're going to be alone. And it keeps you in these really damaging relationships. But what she would do is she has these greatest hits of these nasty, nasty things. She tries to keep everything even keel. That means if anything good happens, she has to make sure to really drive home the bad so that you stay in the middle. So You know, I mean, the other thing, forever. I mean, I don't know if this is actually true or she made it up. She could have made it up, because then my mother we're talking about here. But she told me that in the 4th grade, I got into, you know, you sorted by, you know, they sort kids into every class. Apparently, my teacher told my mother, this is what my mother says now. I can't, I mean, this was a while ago. Teachers were stupid, or, you know, they had an attitude, and they thought they were, you know, sort of holier than thou, and they just had, back in the day, they had this impression that teachers were the knowledge font, etc. I mean, it's possible, and this was an old lady, so it was even worse. Apparently, this person told my mother, this is Mrs. Winslow, told my mother that her class was for Winslow's winners, and I did not belong in that class. Now, the teacher never said it to me. My mother has said that to me probably every 3 months maximum, sometimes more frequently, since it happened. So, 35 years. That's what I mean by the abuse. Now, you know, and again, the blame. Like, my sister is an alcoholic, and that's my fault. Even though I was living 800 miles away when she started drinking. See, because I left, she started drinking. Even though my sister and I, we are oil and vinegar, like you wouldn't believe. We have such massively different personalities. But again, that was set up by my family because they had to separate us so that we wouldn't team up against the parents. Both of my parents are like that. And there's the reason they got together is they both think that they have to control people and they won't come back to them if they don't, you know, convince them in a very negative way. So, you know, the changing of the goalposts type of thing, meaning, okay, here, you do this, and I will think good of you, or whatever, and then you reached whatever goal that has been set for you, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I guess I didn't give you a high enough standard, and now you need to reach this next thing. Never enough. And constantly driving somebody down, telling them that, you know, they're not good enough. They're never going to be good enough. It doesn't matter. I mean, things like, I have this little hobby thing, which actually, it's one of those things where, you know, eventually you do stuff enough, you get pretty good at it. I've been, like, good at it, like award-winning good at it. And first of all, according to my mother, 1, it's a total waste of time. Shouldn't do it. 2, then she gets on me, why haven't you done that yet? At the same time, this is the type of crap that my mother does. And I mean, that sounds so little and nothing. But yeah, the absolute, I'm going to shut you out of my life because you're not worth the, you know, anything. I mean, that's, and it's so consistent. And I deal with my mother still pretty constantly because she's ill, and I don't have to. This is the thing. Everybody tells me my mother's my responsibility. No. My son is my responsibility, and I take that extremely to heart, and I make sure that he's taken care of. But my mother is not, and the rest of my family is not. And despite them wanting to blame everything on me, and but that's where it started. That was the trigger, was my family and growing up